Hey, how are you?
I'm great. How are you today? It's definitely a Monday today.
Could you introduce yourself, please, and give like a little backstory for our listeners?
Yes, absolutely. My name is Nikkita Grady. I am a postpartum pleasure and intimacy coach. So I work with moms, not just women who just had a baby in the last 3 or 4 months. I work with moms and I help them reconnect with their bodies. I help them also reconnect with their partners and regain intimacy in their relationship. And I got into this because in 2021, I had a miscarriage, and my relationship after the miscarriage took a major hit from that whole postpartum phase. And I was like trying to figure out what was happening, what to do, and it just wasn't enough resources out there. And so, after navigating all of these different challenges and this, because postpartum with this pregnancy was totally different from my other pregnancies. And so I did the work and I came out on the other side and I was like, I can't be the only one. So I feel as a certified sex coach and sex educator and somebody who just experienced this that I should put the word out and try to help moms any way that I can because this is something that is not talked about. When you look up postpartum things, they talk about depression or anxiety or weight gain, weight loss, breastfeeding, like all of those things. No one talks about your relationship or your sex life after you have a baby.
That is so true. And that's the reason why I didn't know that was going to be an issue.
Yeah.
Like I feel like no one told me, look, this is gonna test your marriage, or you might even feel like resentful or all of those things. Like why don't we talk about that?
I think because it's taboo, just like the topic of sex itself, I know relationship isn't just defined by sex, but people don't like to talk about the ugly. It's everybody wants to talk about the good things. So it's, oh, you're gonna have a baby and oh, just enjoy it and all the things and just make sure that you do X, Y, Z and yada yada yada. No one I'm not sure why no one feels the need to say, make sure that you effectively communicate with your partner. Make sure that you establish boundaries or that do you know that your entire life and not just your personal life, but your love life is going to change after you have a baby because now you have a whole nother dynamic. You're number one, responsible for another person or other people. And then I think too, people fail to put out that when we have babies as moms, like the first thing that goes out of the window is the self care for ourselves. And when we neglect self care, when we're neglecting ourselves, I mean, we're trying to be everything to everybody. And by everybody, I mean your kids, your spouse, or whatever, whoever's in your home. When we're trying to be everything to everybody and we're not even what we need to be to ourselves, that impacts us in a way that is unimaginable. And we don't even realize it until it's too late. And I think people are just afraid, number one, to admit that. Because in order to admit that, for me to tell you that your relationship might suffer or your sex life might suffer, or you might wake up on some days and not even know who you are, that means that I probably experienced that. And then that means that I have had a problem. And a lot of people don't like to admit that they had a problem.
Oh my gosh. That is so true. And that's why ugh,
And I think that's why people don't talk about it because either that or so I did a live show back in February. And after the live show, someone came up to me and she was like, "Thank you so much. You made me feel normal. Everything that you touched on is how I was feeling after I had my daughter." She was like, and when I talked to my friends and even my mom who has multiple kids, they was like, "Oh, I never experienced that. So I don't know what's wrong with you." And so she literally thought for this 2 year span that something was wrong with her because other people said that they couldn't relate to her.
that is such a disservice to fellow women and fellow human beings because obviously we all suffer. Gosh, that's exactly what I'm like trying to fight against. And you are too, obviously, aside from like, but you actually help specific people.
Yes.
So tell me about that.
So I'm pretty much here for the people who are experiencing any type of issues, whether it's just the intimacy in your relationship is gone, or if it's just, I don't know who I am, I don't feel like myself, or I can't think about sex because I'm breastfeeding and I just feel like my body doesn't belong to me. It belongs to my child. And a lot of people can't separate this. If you are someone who feels like everything is peachy, peachy clean, like everything was like it was before pregnancy, I am not the one for you. I'm not here. Kudos to you if your sex drive did not change. Kudos to you if your relationship did not take a hit. But I am here to help women who are struggling with their self identity, with their mental health, with their sex life, their sex drive, intimacy within their relationship, and then their relationship as a whole with themselves and their partners.
Do you find that it takes a lot for someone to come to you,
Yeah.
for a client to come to you?
Yes. So I have some people that have come to me and they would say, "Hey, my husband sent me one of your posts on Instagram and said that I should reach out or that I should have a conversation with you. This is the issue that I'm having." Or someone would say, "Hey, my friend sent me this and I'm just trying to see what do you do and how can you help me?" A lot of the times what I have found is women will also come to me because they can't talk to their partner about sex. It's uncomfortable or they're afraid that if it's been over 6 weeks and the doctor has cleared them for sexual activity, but they are not ready for sex and their partner is, they feel like it's going to create like World War III in the home or whatever the case may be. So they come to me and I let them know this is how I can help you. This is what working with me looks like. Do you want to move forward? And once we go through that, I think painting a picture of what you can achieve by working with me makes them feel a little bit more at ease. And then they're able to put their guard down. Also, I think because I've been through it before and I can relate, I'm not just somebody out here who, like, I'm not someone who's not a mom out here trying to help women through postpartum. If I just feel like I can't help you if I don't know what I'm doing myself. And because I've been where you are, I think it makes it easier once people actually initially connect with me for them to open up.
Have you dealt with a lot of people asking you questions and they're like giggly and awkward?
In the beginning, I did. I don't come across that as much now. And I think some of it was probably me. Like, for instance, if I was out and about and somebody just happened to ask me what I did, I would just giggle and be like, "Well, thanks, coach." And then they would get like shy or timid, and then they would be all bashful and giggly. And so when I figured out what I really wanted to do and I rebranded, I was like, okay, it's time for me to take myself serious. And I don't feel like other people can take me as seriously if I'm giggling when I give my title. And so I think because now yes, I'm a sex coach or I'm a postpartum pleasure and intimacy coach. It's okay. All right, let's talk.
I really admire that. You said that social media had given you problems with censorship or messing up your algorithm.
Oh, yeah. It is an ongoing fight. So I had to recently create a whole new Instagram and I decided to start from scratch. So I'm very intentional now, not to mention like sex. Even in, so at one point, and a lot of people in my industry do the same thing, like instead of typing SEX in their caption, they'll do like SEGS or SECKS, or they'll write sex and then they'll do upside down E or E with an accent mark or something like that. So I've just learned different ways to say what I need to say to my audience without specifically saying sex. And that's part of the reason why. So initially, I was a postpartum sex and intimacy coach. And so then I changed my title to pleasure. And it wasn't even social media that pushed me to change it to pleasure. But I'm sure that because my title had sex in it, that was part of the reason why I kept getting shadow banned. What pushed me to change my title from sex coach to pleasure is I would notice if I was out in public, if I was in Target and I would approach someone and I would be talking to them and they had toddlers with them, if I said the word sex, number one, I would be uncomfortable, not because I'm not comfortable saying sex around kids, but because I don't know how other people would respond to that. I know that not everyone is comfortable with words like that being thrown around their kids. And so I would like hesitate and I'd be like, "Hi, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm a sex coach." And I was like, okay, now it makes it seem like I'm embarrassed about what I do. So I need to fix this. So then I started to lean into the term pleasure. And from my own personal experiences and even working with my therapist, I found that I like the word pleasure better. I feel like pleasure is more encompassing because also what I'm noticing is although I started out as a certified sex coach and then I niched down to work with postpartum women or moms in general, I'm also noticing that pleasure can be a lot of things and not necessarily just sex. And my therapist made a statement to me, and I had gotten a little stagnant in my business. I wasn't really doing anything. My motivation was up and down, mostly down. And I was to the point where I was ready to throw the towel in. And so my therapist said, "You work with women in helping them rediscover pleasure." And I was like, "Yeah, that's right." And she said, "The reason why you're struggling so bad is because you're not allowing yourself to experience pleasure in life in general. And because you're not able to experience pleasure, you're having a hard time teaching other women how to experience pleasure, even though you're talking about sex." And so I pondered on that for a while and I was like, she might be onto something. And then I was like, you know what? That is a issue that we have postpartum as moms is we don't allow ourselves to experience pleasure in general, not even just sexually. And so I don't know, I like the term pleasure and intimacy better because I just feel like it makes it a little bit broader and I can hit on more things than just sex.
Pleasure makes me think also of you don't necessarily need a
Right.
partner.
You can find pleasure in indulging in a big bowl of ice cream, binge watching your favorite comfort show. Like that could be pleasure. But if you are not allowing yourself to even do small things like that, then you're hurting yourself, but ultimately you're hurting your loved ones because you can't pour from an empty cup. You just can't. No matter how hard we try, like I try to be super mom all the time, but there are times where I'm so depleted that I have the energy to do absolutely nothing. And my daughter would be like, "Mommy, I want to go to the park." And I'm like, "Baby, please, no, not today." Like I can't. And then that starts to become the norm. And we don't want that.
The best thing you can give your children is the best
Versus
version of
absolutely.
yourself.
Absolutely. I tell people start small. Don't think that self-care has to be these grand gestures to yourself. Wow. And this is another thing that my therapist actually helped me to see too, because we were talking, and I think it was a couple of weeks after she told me the thing about the pleasure. And we were talking, and she said, "What are you doing for self care? Like, I see you're out here teaching everybody about self care. What are you doing?" And at this particular point, I had gotten away from my self care routine. I did have one, and then I don't even know what happened to it. I looked up one day and I was not doing self care again. And I was like, I'm not really getting massages anymore. And I only really go to the nail shop now if I have to and things like that. And she was like, "No, that is pampering. What are you doing for self care? Pampering without self care is a waste of money." And I was like, "Oh, that, yeah." And so I started telling her about like my old self care routine and how I started it. And she was like, "Okay, so maybe you need to get back to that." And so start small. And even though this is what I do, like I am not perfect, I'm still human. So I do still mess up. I do still fall short. Sometimes it's overwhelming. My daughter is 5 and she has the schedule of about 5 kids. She is in tumble, she is in tap, ballet, hip hop. She is also in gymnastics and she's in swim and she goes to school. Like we are literally doing something almost every day of the week. And when you're ripping and running constantly on top of just chauffeuring a kid around, on top of whatever your career is, whether you're a career woman or well, a businesswoman or an entrepreneur, like whatever you do to generate income, like trying to juggle all of that can become overwhelming. It's a lot. And like I said, sometimes, most of the times, we're like, "I'll take care of me later." And "I'll take care of you later" goes from being one day to a week to a month. And then you look up and it's been 3, 6, maybe even a year. And it's like, when's the last time you bought something for you? When's the last time you took a moment to just breathe? When is the last time you took just 5 minutes to yourself where you're not doing anything? You're not working, you're not talking to anyone else, you're not caring for anyone else, you're not cleaning. Like you are literally just in the moment for just 5 minutes. Start small. Once you can master taking 5 minutes, then you can increase that to 10 minutes. Once you master taking 10 minutes for yourself, then you can start to incorporate other things. And that was how I started with my routine. I took a few minutes here and there. And then I went to, in the mornings, I was like, let me focus on skincare because my skin has started getting really bad. So I went to Sephora and I had them do a skin analysis and they helped me choose these products for me to use as far as cleansers and moisturizers. So I started there. And then every morning, I made sure that I washed my face with these products that I spent all this money on. Um, and then from there, I incorporated a nighttime routine because I actually learned in the last couple of years that the products that you're using in the morning should not be the same products you're using at night. And I know I went to Sephora. You don't even have to start there. You can start at Walmart. You can shop on Amazon. Like you have to do what's best for you. But ultimately, the goal is that you want to create a self-care routine for yourself. You want to make sure that you're nurturing yourself. You want to make sure you're taking care of yourself so that you can be the best version that you can be to your children and your partner.
I feel like I just recently made the cut between pregnancy clothing,
Mhm.
pregnancy routine with washing my face and showering. And I feel like I just was like, oh my God, I could go back to using good product, like
Yeah.
being like more like girly. Like I
Mhm.
felt, during pregnancy, I was like, I have to use,
Right.
non-toxic, blah, blah, blah. So that was like a huge thing.
And that goes back to a lot of women not feeling like their body is their own because you do have to be careful. When my daughter was born, she had super, super sensitive. Like, I think if I looked at fragrance, she broke out. But I could not wear body sprays or perfumes or scented lotions or anything. And I think in the last year, I was just now able to start back doing that. So even with that, there are still things that you can do to incorporate self-care. And like I said, as the kids get older, when it comes to things like that, fragrance and products that you're using, you'll find that as they get older, most kids outgrow that super sensitive phase. Not all, it just really depends on what's going on with them. But you'll learn to adapt and adjust, and you can still find other ways. So if you love to wear like body spray or perfume and you can't wear that because your child is so sensitive, maybe you can find like a natural oil that smells really good that won't be as harsh for their skin. And I know some people might be like, what does that have to do with my baby? Because you got to keep in mind, if you're spraying perfume on you and then you're holding your baby and your baby has super sensitive skin, or if you're hugging your toddler and your toddler has super sensitive skin, that is going to affect their skin.
Yep. Or like allergies or headaches but like feeling like your body is your own is such a man. You just go like you just go for so long, such a long
Mhm.
time detaching from your body. Let me just get through this pregnancy. Let me just get through this. And then if it's a difficult birth or traumatic, or even if you have a C-section, you're like healing from surgery. And that's like
Right.
a whole thing. And
Yeah, it's so many different scenarios because just like pregnancy, every woman in every situation is going to be different, even from one child to the next. Your first child might sleep through the nights, might be easy to put on the schedule, and then you decide to have another child, and this child could be like the seed of Chucky. This could be your child that does whatever, and you can't get this child on a routine to save your life. So, how do you come back from that? So, it does vary from one kid to the next, from one woman to the next, but it's about finding a balance. And I can help you get there, but a lot of it, you still have to, first of all, you have to be willing to put in the work. And if you're not willing to put in the work, then you're never going to come out of this. You have to be willing to put in the work. And by putting in the work, I mean that if I give you a task or what I call homework, if we work together and I give you homework, and let's say your homework is for you to find 10 minutes throughout the day that you can just have moments to yourself, and you come and you keep giving me excuse after excuse as to why getting 10 minutes to yourself is not going to happen, I can't help you because that means you're not willing to do the work. Wake up 10 minutes earlier if you need to. Stay up 10 minutes later if you need to. Go in the bathroom, lock the door for 10 minutes As long as your kids are not in danger, they're going to be okay. Now, I'm not saying let your child scream and cry for 10 whole minutes. Again, you have to know your threshold and your children's threshold, but that is still a start. Try nap time if they're in daycare. And these are moments, again, that you're not doing anything else. You're not working, you're not caring for your partner because your child is at daycare. You're not cooking and cleaning because you only have 3 hours to get the house tidy. And I think that's another thing, too. I have recently had to come to terms with my house is lived in. I have a 5-year-old, and it's not gonna always be clean all the time. It like, not the whole house at once anyway. I was so anal about that for so long until I was like, "I'm never going to accomplish anything because I'm always cleaning." Sometimes you have to let those chores go. Those chores will be there tomorrow. So if it is a matter of you having a breakdown because you're so overwhelmed, you might be touched out, you're stressed out, you're overstimulated, whatever it is. If it's a matter of you about to blow your gasket, you're about to like really lose your cool and washing clothes, take a break. Wash those clothes tomorrow.
Yes. I I heard someone say your house can't be clean and your kids clean and you clean all at the same time. Throw one of those away.
Possible, but it is very hard to achieve for sure. It's not an easy task. And some people, there are different ways you can achieve that too. So if you have a husband or a partner that lives with you, this is where communication comes in. Like communicate. Like I really need you to help me with the house chores. I feel like I'm doing everything by myself. I don't know if you've ever heard anyone say they feel like a single, what, hold on, let me think of how it's worded. Even though they're married, they feel like they're a single parent.
Yeah.
I think it's called a married single parent. I think that's the term for it. First time I heard that was from two of my closest friends. They were, "I feel like a single parent." And I was like, "Girl, don't talk to me about single parenting. I
Mm.
am a single parent. There is no way that my husband is gonna be in the house with me and I feel like I'm doing this by myself." And they're like, "Oh, you don't understand." But when I started deep diving and really getting into this and talking to more people, I started to learn that really is a thing. There are some people that are in relationships or marriages and they feel single. What I'm finding in those situations is because the communication is not there. You feel tired and touched out and overwhelmed. Your partner, your husband, or whoever also feels tired, touched out, and overwhelmed. And you feel like the baby's hanging on me all day. Why are you so tired? But you have to understand that having a baby is not just an adjustment for you, it's an adjustment for them. You also have to realize that they see that you're sensitive. They see that this is you're different. And sometimes it's a matter of them not knowing how to respond to you. So it maybe it's not that they don't want to help. They feel like maybe before the baby, when they tried to help, you would tell them they were in the way. And they don't want to be in the way because they don't want to frustrate you or irritate you. So you have to communicate these things. You have to talk. And so just say, "Hey, I feel overwhelmed. Can you please help out with the dishes? Can you please help by cooking dinner?" Like delegate tasks if you need to, but have a conversation and you'll see how much easier it'll be and y'all can actually even maybe develop a routine where y'all take turns. I got up with the baby last night. It's your turn to get up with the baby tonight. Or the middle kid had a nightmare last night. I slept in there yesterday. Can you go in there and sleep with them tonight or stay in there until they fall asleep tonight? While they're doing that's 10 minutes that you can have to yourself. Like you again, you have to find ways to make it work for you in your household, but it's very possible. Some people also find that hiring a cleaner to come to the house once or twice a week is helpful. So you have to, again, figure out what works for you in your situation and then implement that. But you have to do whatever it is that's going to help you stay sane and that's going to allow you to take care of yourself.
What is worth it
Mhm.
if you're gonna pay with your mental health and your relationship and
Mhm.
intimacy? That's just not worth it. Pay whatever it is for someone to clean your house.
And if you don't have it, because the economy is real jacked up right now, and it's hard for a lot of people. If
Yeah.
you can't afford to hire a house cleaner, that's fine. Maybe there's family members that you can bring into the home to help. Maybe you have close friends. even if you're friends with kids, arrange a play date, put the kids in one room, and you don't even have to have the friend help you clean up, but just having an adult that you can have adult conversation with while you do chores might be helpful.
Mm, that's everything.
I have a friend that tells me every time we get on the phone, she was like, I just love talking to you because I done got the whole house clean, girl. And she was like, I don't know what it is about talking to you on the phone, but when I'm on the phone with you, I get stuff done. So that's another way that you can, and you're getting adult interaction. Your kids are either napping or playing with someone, or maybe they're watching TV or an iPad. And I know some people are like, I don't want my kid to be an iPad baby. I said the same thing until I realized, TikTok, I beg her now, please go get your iPad and find you something to do. So yeah, there are ways around not having enough money to hire help. There are ways around feeling like you're a single married person. There are ways around feeling like you're just completely exhausted and you just don't have the time and energy.
So you work with women.
Mhm.
When, if this happens, when do you start to work with their partner, or do you?
It depends. So no one client that I work with has the same
Right.
process. Everything that I do is specifically tailored to my client. So if my client needs for their partner to be present, then I can do partnered coaching. Some people, I've had some women say, it's me, I'm the problem. I just need to work on this. This is where my mind is. This is where I want it to be. And so I work strictly with them. I've had some women say, I'm not the problem. My partner is the problem. But what can I do to get my partner involved? And sometimes, and so an example of that, I recently had a client who it's not even, she is postpartum. She just had a baby a couple of months ago, but her issue was not necessarily anything postpartum. Her issue is that she wants her boyfriend to be more explorative in the bedroom. And she's not sure how to make him do the things that she wants him to do. He doesn't know that she was reaching out to me or that she worked with me. So in that instance, even though it was regarding her partner, I was still able to work with her. And our exercises included things like have this conversation with him, say these things, or you can initiate by doing this and saying something like, oh, I read this in the book, or I heard this on a podcast, or I saw this on social media and I want to give it a try. And so I worked with her with help getting her partner where she wanted him to be without him even being present ever.
That's pretty powerful.
And
I
then, of
mean,
course, there are some situations where I will have women come to me and they have an issue, and I will say, I can help you with this to an extent. I would need for your partner to at least hop on one call. Do you think your partner would be open to that? So yeah, it really depends on what the issue is and what the desired outcome is.
it's so important because you're right. Pleasure is not just sex,
Right.
and it's not just about you and your partner. So it's not
Mhm.
just like your relationship. It's really about being intimate with yourself.
Yes. I have women become attuned to their bodies. And so that this is a thing because for one, if you're breastfeeding, it's like my child is latched to my boobs all day. This is not my body. But for the women who aren't breastfeeding for whatever reason, sometimes they feel detached from their body just because think about it. We grow these whole human beings in our body. So our body goes through so many changes. And that those changes, we have hormonal changes, we have physical changes, like all of these things that are taking place, you're trying to figure out who you are or what your body is doing now. You might have stretch marks and loose skin for the first time ever in your life. And if that is something that you've never had before, like that could be hard to become accustomed to. If your breasts got really big while you were pregnant and then they immediately went back down, then now your breasts probably sag a little bit. If you've had perky breasts all your life and now you have a kid and your breasts are sagging, that could be hard to accept. That could be hard to look at every day. If you're now an emotional being and you weren't emotional before the pregnancy, you might be having a hard time with that. Like, why am I not always crying? Everything makes me sad. I just help them do the work to become attached or attuned to their bodies again. That means having the confidence to be in this new body. That means accepting the fact that you may never go back to your pre-pregnant body. For some people, they do. And again, kudos to you. But for a lot of women, that's not the case. So I help you become comfortable in your new skin. And I help you rediscover things that you like in terms of physical touch to you. And what I mean by that is, so for me, and I always tell people, before I had my daughter, my breasts were one of my biggest hot spots. I could go from 0 to 100 real quick if the wind. After my daughter, and I always use my daughter because I breastfed my daughter, like strictly breastfed. She didn't take bottles. She didn't even take a pacifier. Like she strictly breastfed. And I ended up breastfeeding her for a little over 2 years. Even when she got introduced to solid foods, I was still breastfeeding. At that point, it was more of a comfort thing for her, like a passy would be for other kids. But so by the time she stopped breastfeeding, my breasts were no longer a turn on for me. Don't touch them, cause no. But I wouldn't know that if I didn't take the time to explore my body or try to become attuned to my body again. I would and this is for many women. Some of the things that you liked before pregnancy, you may not like after pregnancy. You might used to like being bitten and now you don't. You might not have liked being bitten before and now you do. So I just help women figure out what it is that they enjoy in their new body and how to accept that and be comfortable and be confident and feel sexy. You can find me on all social media platforms at Nikkita Grady. So it's just Nikitagrady. And that is Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever it is now, Snapchat, LinkedIn, Lemonade. You can also visit my website, nikitagrady.com. Feel free to message me through my website. Feel free to send me a DM on any social media platform. If you DM me on social media, I just ask that you give me a little bit of grace because a lot of times messages will go to filtered or spam. And I don't see some messages for weeks. So just give me a little bit of time if you do happen to message me and I don't respond right away. Or you can send me an email at hello@nikitagrading.com.
Awesome. So I'll put all that in the show notes as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
We're gonna have a part 2 at 3 now.